Observe the sterile, fluorescent canopy of the modern corporate breakroom, a fascinating artificial habitat where human animals gather to replenish their depleted energy. You are sitting quietly at a laminate table, slowly chewing a simple $6 sandwich while the chaotic rhythms of the office swirl around you. To the untrained eye, you are merely a docile member of the herd, another worker drone bound by the rigid hierarchies of this concrete jungle. But what you are actually witnessing is a brilliant display of evolutionary camouflage, a masterful performance designed to hide your true position in the food chain. You are not alone if you have spent years believing that true power in this ecosystem always roars, demands attention, and wears the most expensive plumage. We are conditioned to fear the shadows, to despise the unglamorous corners of our habitat, and to worship the glittering apex predators of the corporate world. Yet, the reality you are about to discover is completely different, challenging every preconceived notion you hold about survival and dominance. What if the most successful organism in this entire building is a stationary, glowing entity that nobody even considers a threat? And what happens when the flock discovers that the quietest member among them secretly controls the very resources they desperately crave? The answers lie hidden behind a pane of illuminated glass, though the truth of this biological architecture is much stranger than it appears. Consider the large metal box standing silently in the corner of the room, a creature you purchased for exactly $1,200. Most people view this snack machine as a lifeless appliance, a mere convenience placed there by some faceless, benevolent corporation. In truth, it is a highly evolved, predatory organism, a biological security system perfectly designed to capture the impulsive desires of the passing herd. It does not hunt. It waits patiently, using bright colors and synthetic sugars as irresistible bait for the exhausted mammals seeking a quick burst of energy. Before you dismiss this as a mere vending machine, look a little closer at the brilliant predatory mechanics it employs to sustain your hidden life. You watch as a stressed colleague, wearing a designer suit that costs a fraction of your monthly passive intake, approaches the glowing machine. They tap their plastic card against the reader, exchanging their hard-earned labor for a fleeting rush of caffeine and artificial flavor. They do not look at you, they do not notice your cheap fleece, and they certainly do not realize that their money has just been deposited directly into your secret reservoir. It is a perfect, frictionless transfer of energy, a symbiotic transaction where the host remains completely oblivious to the parasite that feeds upon its exhaustion. Let me ask you a rather direct, perhaps uncomfortable question about the habitat you currently occupy. How many precious hours of your short lifespan have you traded for a fragile corporate title, desperately trying to impress a flock that does not care about you? We judge each other by the shininess of our artificial shells, taking on massive debts just to appear dominant in a hierarchy that can erase us with one indifferent email. Feel free to share your defense of the relentless corporate grind in the comments below, because it is absolutely fascinating how we fiercely protect our own invisible cages. We often pull out the proverbial slipper to squash the things that look dirty, mundane, or entirely unglamorous, completely missing the elegant biological function at play. But this grime, this boring infrastructure, is the very foundation of your hidden sanctuary, the fertile soil from which your absolute autonomy grows. The magic of this ecosystem relies entirely on the principle of the invisible root system, a network that feeds the tree while remaining buried deep underground. You do not need to stand in the break room and aggressively sell your wares to the migrating herd of employees. The machine performs this ritual for you, a tireless, dedicated cleaner that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without ever requesting a vacation or a performance review. It absorbs the silver coins and digital credits of the population, quietly digesting them and pumping the vital nutrients back into your financial bloodstream. This quiet paradox is the ultimate form of evolution, a survival strategy that outsmarts the loudest competitors by simply refusing to play their exhausting game. But this is only a fraction of the story. The true scale of your biological empire stretches far beyond this single fluorescently lit room. The solitary machine is merely one node in a vast, interconnected organism that you have carefully cultivated across the urban landscape. You have deployed these silent sentinels in hospital break rooms, where the nocturnal shifts of nurses and doctors provide a relentless, predictable stream of hungry hosts. You have planted them in dreary waiting rooms, capturing the boredom and anxiety of strangers and converting those raw emotions into steady, reliable capital. The network breathes, consumes, and grows entirely in the shadows, completely detached from the vulnerable identity you present to your coworkers. Maintaining this sprawling organism requires a specialized form of symbiosis, a relationship that mimics the delicate balance found in the deepest oceans.
You have recruited a young student, eager for basic sustenance, who drives a weathered Ford Transit van through the city arteries while the rest of the world sleeps. This individual acts as a worker bee, a vital pollinator who visits each mechanical flower, replenishing the synthetic nectar and extracting the harvested energy. You pay them a fair wage for their nocturnal labor, creating a mutually beneficial ecosystem where you never have to touch the physical reality of the machines yourself. You remain the hidden architect, the mind that directs the colony from the absolute safety of your unassuming office cubicle. The sheer volume of this invisible harvest is staggering, a testament to the power of compound energy applied over vast territories. Your network of 42 machines operates with ruthless efficiency, generating a staggering $11,400 in pure, unadulterated profit every single month. This number silently eclipses the annual bonus your managers dangle in front of you like a fresh piece of meat before a starving predator. While your colleagues engage in brutal, exhausting combat for a 3% salary increase, your silent organism effortlessly yields a bounty that dwarfs their wildest ambitions. Perhaps you are sitting there right now, staring at your screen, thinking that this is an interesting metaphor. But why should you truly care about selling potato chips? That is a very fair, highly rational question, especially if you have been conditioned to believe that true success must be highly visible and incredibly complex. We are taught to chase the elusive unicorns, the glamorous technology startups, and the flashy innovations that promise to change the entire world overnight. But the truth is much more fascinating, rooted in the undeniable fact that the most enduring biological structures are often the most boring. A coral reef does not attempt to disrupt the ocean, it simply exists, slowly calcifying over centuries, providing a foundational habitat for countless other species. Your vending machine network is a financial coral reef, a deeply unglamorous asset that capitalizes on the fundamental, unchanging mechanics of human biology and basic convenience. The psychological armor provided by this massive influx of silent revenue is nearly impossible for the uninitiated to fully comprehend or appreciate. It fundamentally alters the very chemistry of your brain, lowering your baseline cortisol levels and replacing chronic survival anxiety with a deep, oceanic calm. When a crisis inevitably strikes the office, when rumors of corporate restructuring ripple through the cubicles like a sudden panic in a herd of gazelles, your pulse remains beautifully steady. You observe the frantic, terrified scrambling of your peers with profound empathy, understanding their sheer terror because you once lived within that exact same fragile reality. But you cannot save them. Nor should you ever try to reveal the secret, illuminated path you have taken to escape the psychological enclosure. If this biological truth about the nature of hidden capital and the power of invisible infrastructure has surprised you or shifted your perspective, please subscribe to our channel. Together, we will continue to uncover these hidden ecosystems, restoring justice to the quiet, misunderstood forces that shape our strange modern world. There is so much more to explore beneath the surface, far away from the noisy, distracting canopy of the artificial environments we call our workplaces. The deeper we look into the mechanics of wealth, the more we realize that the most powerful entities on this planet rarely make a sound. By joining our expedition, you will learn to spot the invisible predators and the silent architects who truly control the flow of energy. We must now delve into the fascinating phenomenon of the invisible boundary that separates you from your unsuspecting, deeply anxious colleagues. Every single morning, you cross this invisible threshold when you walk through the glass doors of your 9-to-5 job, seamlessly switching your biological frequency. You listen intently to their complaints about the rising price of groceries, their deep anxieties about the housing market, and their desperate hopes for a minor promotion. You offer sympathetic nods and carefully constructed words of encouragement, playing your designated part in the complex social grooming rituals of the primate troop. But your empathy is entirely detached, mimicking the calm observation of a scientist watching a desperate struggle from behind a thick pane of protective, soundproof glass. You are completely immune to their specific localized terrors, heavily shielded by the $11,400 that quietly materializes in your accounts month after month. This brings us to a profound realization about the true, unvarnished nature of freedom in a highly structured, inherently predatory corporate environment. Freedom is not the ability to loudly declare your independence to the world, nor is it the capacity to purchase expensive, gleaming artifacts for public display. Absolute freedom is the incredible privilege of being completely underestimated, of walking through a crowded room without triggering a single envious or threatened glance from the dominant males. It is the miraculous ability to absorb the condescension of a foolish, arrogant manager, knowing that your monthly passive intake completely dwarfs their entire annual salary. The vending machine, with its endless, mesmerizing cycles of dropping snacks and cooling beverages, has done far more than just capture the spare change of the passing herd. It has effectively cleansed your ego, stripping away the toxic, ingrained need for external validation, and leaving behind a resilient, unbreakable core of quiet confidence. There is an undeniable, haunting poetry in the mechanics of these coin-operated machines. A steady rhythm that perfectly mimics the heartbeat of a thriving, healthy ecosystem. Every crumpled dollar bill is a tiny physical manifestation of someone else's labor, willingly surrendered in exchange for a brief, fleeting moment of synthetic utility. These microtransactions, individually insignificant and easily ignored, pool together to form a mighty river of capital that silently carves out your personal financial Grand Canyon. This is the undeniable magic of compound energy, the foundational biological principle that allows tiny, consistent efforts to build monumental, enduring structures over long periods of time. You do not need to hunt large, dangerous prey to survive. You simply need to intelligently position yourself where the nutrients naturally and inevitably flow. The sheer elegance of this stealthy strategy is often completely invisible to those who are blinded by the desperate, exhausting pursuit of massive, immediate gains. Let us return to the image of you sitting in the break room taking another bite of your highly unspectacular $6 turkey sandwich. The sandwich itself is a marvel of evolutionary camouflage, a mundane prop that perfectly blends your physical presence into the dull, grey background of the corporate setting. It does not demand attention. It does not provoke any hierarchical challenge. It simply performs its caloric function with the quiet reliability of a loyal beast of burden. To the outside observer, the person eating this sad, cellophane-wrapped meal is just another minor cog in the vast, churning machine of the urban economy. But beneath that dull, profoundly average exterior lies a mind that has entirely decoded the matrix.
a master strategist who has secured a permanent place outside the enclosure.
You are the ultimate survivor, the apex organism hiding in plain sight, fueled by the endless, unglamorous cycles of the artificial natural world. You watch your coworker pop the tab on the energy drink they just purchased from your machine, listening to the satisfying hiss of carbonation. In that exact fleeting moment, a perfect circle of energy transfer is completed, demonstrating the absolute genius of your meticulously constructed habitat. They consume the chemical energy required to survive another agonizing hour of data entry, while you consume the financial energy required to buy back your own precious time on Earth. It is a beautiful, utterly flawless symbiotic relationship, where both organisms receive exactly what they need to endure the harsh realities of the concrete jungle. Yet, only one of you understands the true architecture of the relationship, while the other remains completely blinded by the deceptive, glowing lights of the immediate reward. The truth always remains safely hidden from those who lack the patience, the discipline, and the sheer audacity to observe the subtle rhythms of the undergrowth. It is a very common, almost universal misconception that acquiring vast resources must fundamentally change the visible, external behavior of the creature holding the wealth. We expect the newly powerful to roar loudly, to aggressively claim the highest rock, to beat their chests so the entire surrounding jungle takes immediate notice. But the most sophisticated, highly evolved predators in our modern ecosystem know that visibility is directly synonymous with extreme vulnerability and unnecessary danger. To be seen as wealthy is to instantly become a primary target for every parasite, every scavenger, and every opportunistic predator seeking a free, effortless meal. Your unassuming posture, your cheap sandwich, and your quiet demeanor are not signs of failure, but rather an impenetrable shell, a perfect evolutionary adaptation. This carefully maintained facade allows you to move through the hostile environment completely undisturbed, a wealthy ghost haunting the very machine of modern consumption. Think about the immense, overwhelming psychological relief of no longer needing to constantly perform for the fickle approval of the surrounding, judgmental flock. The heavy, crushing burden of status anxiety, a virulent disease that plagues so many modern human mammals, simply evaporates in the soft hum of your vending machines. You watch a colleague deliberately stretch their finances to the absolute breaking point, buying luxury brands just to signal their imagined worth to total strangers. Meanwhile, you silently own the very infrastructure upon which they rely for their daily survival, holding the keys to the kingdom while dressed in common rags. The contrast is as stark and as beautiful as the difference between a fragile exotic orchid and a deeply rooted, entirely indestructible oak tree. One requires constant, anxious maintenance and perfect conditions to merely survive, while the other draws silent, massive power from the earth, utterly indifferent to the shifting winds. The architecture of this silent, stealthy wealth is a true masterpiece of natural selection, heavily favoring those who deeply understand the true, hidden flow of energy. By fully embracing the unglamorous, the boring, and the utterly mundane, you have unlocked a level of profound peace that no corporate promotion could ever possibly provide. The true cost of visibility is simply too high, paid in the currency of your own privacy, your security, and your sacred peace of mind. As the seasons slowly change and the harsh winter inevitably approaches, the biology of your vast vending machine ecosystem adapts with remarkable, almost frightening resilience. The freezing temperatures outside bring a new kind of environmental stress, driving the human herd indoors and trapping them within the brightly lit corridors of hospitals and office buildings. This is the precise moment when the fragile, highly artificial businesses of the modern world often struggle, their complex operations easily disrupted by the shifting, unforgiving climate. But your glowing metal organisms thrive beautifully in this specific adversity, their illuminated displays acting as warm, inviting beacons for the desperate, trapped herd seeking quick sustenance. The demand for your biological fuel dispensers skyrockets, proving that the most enduring structures are those that solve fundamental, inescapable physical human problems. The cold winter is not a threat to your continued survival. It is a glorious season of harvest, a time of unprecedented caloric intake for your silent, widespread system. Consider the remarkable, unwavering loyalty of the automated machinery, the silent, metallic workers that never complain, never attempt to unionize, and never demand a sudden promotion. They are the ultimate, perfect, symbiotic partners, dedicating their entire, singular existence to the simple task of dispensing carbohydrates, sugars, and pressurized liquids to the masses. When a coil jams or a coin mechanism fails, it is not a massive corporate crisis requiring endless committee meetings and toxic political maneuvering. It is simply a minor biological rupture that your nocturnal worker bee, the student in the Ford Transit, will easily heal before the sun even rises. This direct, brilliantly delegated connection to the source of your wealth is profoundly grounding, eliminating the abstract, anxiety-inducing layers of the traditional corporate world. You monitor the health of the entire ecosystem through a simple digital dashboard, watching the lifeblood of the network flow securely into your centralized reservoir. There is a strange, almost hypnotic trance that occurs when you review these digital ledgers in the dead of the night, isolated from the judgmental gaze of the office. The sensory experience is overwhelming, focusing on the sheer, undeniable reality of the numbers, the beautiful, rhythmic clatter of wealth compounding quietly in the dark. It is a primal, deeply satisfying sensation, akin to an early human gathering a massive, life-saving harvest of berries and nuts long before the punishing winter sets in. In these quiet, profoundly solitary moments, completely detached from the exhausting, superficial performance of the office flock, you realize the absolute absurdity of social status. Why would any rational organism trade this tangible, heavy reality of financial independence for a fragile title on a digital profile or a leased symbol of artificial dominance? The quiet millionaire never needs to perform for a captive audience, because the sheer, indisputable weight of their gathered resources provides all the internal validation necessary. The ultimate realization, the true philosophical core of this entire biological strategy, is that genuine peace is fundamentally, and always will be, an act of intentional subtraction. The modern world violently insists that happiness requires constant, relentless addition, demanding more attention, more luxury, and more visible markers of success to display to the competitive tribe. But the brilliant architecture of stealth wealth relies entirely on stripping away absolutely everything that attracts the hungry, envious eyes of the surrounding, desperate predators. By fully embracing the boring, unglamorous reality of selling packaged snacks in fluorescent hallways, you have subtracted the toxic need for external validation from your life completely. You have meticulously built an impenetrable fortress of profound silence, a self-sustaining ecosystem that allows you to simply exist on your own terms, completely unbothered. You sit there, holding the last bite of your humble sandwich, watching the colleague crush the empty aluminum can and toss it carelessly into the recycling bin.
They wipe their mouth, feeling a temporary surge of artificial energy, completely unaware that they have just participated in a masterful, invisible symphony of wealth creation. This is the grand finale of the daily biological theatre, a beautiful, repeating loop of consumption and silent accumulation that happens thousands of times a day. You wipe a stray crumb from your chin, fold the simple paper wrapping of your meal, and prepare to return to your incredibly unassuming desk. You will continue to answer emails, nod politely during meaningless meetings, and blend perfectly into the dull, grey tapestry of the corporate environment. No one will ever suspect that the quiet person sitting in the corner cubicle commands a vast, sprawling empire of steel and glass scattered across the entire city. Your secret remains completely safe, locked away behind a mild smile and a perfectly cultivated aura of sheer, undeniable averageness that repels all unwanted attention. The truth is that true power does not need to announce its presence. It simply shapes the environment until the environment serves its ultimate purpose.
Every single day, thousands of exhausted humans interact with your hidden network. leaving behind tiny pieces of their own labor in exchange for brief comfort. You are the invisible maestro conducting this massive orchestra of hunger, thirst, and convenience, standing entirely off stage while the music plays on without interruption. The next time you walk past a vending machine humming quietly in a lonely corridor, pause for a moment and look deeply into its illuminated glass face. You might just be looking at the ultimate biological trap, a silent hunter perfectly adapted to thrive in the complex, artificial wilderness of the modern human era. And perhaps, if you look closely enough, you will begin to understand the incredible, liberating power of refusing to play the game everyone else is desperately losing. You will realize that the most profound victories are the ones that nobody else even knows you are fighting, won entirely in the shadows of the concrete jungle. The flock will continue to migrate, the fluorescent lights will continue to buzz, and the apex predators will continue to exhaust themselves roaring at the empty sky. Meanwhile, the silent architects of the world will simply continue to build, feed, and grow, completely untouched by the chaos that consumes the less evolved creatures. You take a final sip of water, stand up from the laminate table, and walk calmly back to your desk, holding the greatest secret in the world. We often vastly underestimate the psychological toll of constantly defending our territory in the wild, artificial jungles we construct within our modern society. The corporate apex predators must sleep with one eye open, perpetually terrified that a younger, faster rival will dethrone them and take their resources. But the architect of the silent ecosystem sleeps soundly, deeply insulated by the physical reality of steel boxes that demand absolutely nothing but electricity. Your wealth is completely decentralized, scattered across dozens of different microhabitats, making it virtually impossible for a single catastrophic event to destroy your livelihood. This level of biological resilience is the holy grail of evolution, a state of perfect adaptation where the organism is entirely secure in its environment. Consider the sheer poetry of the student driving the old Ford Transit, moving quietly through the slumbering city like a nocturnal, dedicated pollinator. They are completely oblivious to the vast, grand strategy they are helping to execute, focused only on the simple, immediate reward of their necessary wages. You have effectively outsourced the physical burden of survival, leveraging the energy of others to maintain your expanding empire while preserving your own caloric reserves. This is not exploitation, but a beautiful, perfectly balanced symbiosis where every single participant receives exactly what they require to survive another difficult day. The student gains vital resources, the hungry hospital workers gain immediate sustenance, and you, the quiet observer, gain the ultimate prize of absolute freedom. As the rain gently taps against the reinforced glass windows of the break room, the entire building seems to breathe a collective sigh of deep exhaustion. The fluorescent lights hum their endless synthetic lullaby, casting long, tired shadows across the laminate tables and the stained industrial carpet of the floor. You remain a deeply grounded anchor in this ocean of human fatigue, a silent testament to the extraordinary power of invisible, perfectly structured biological architecture. The next time you are tempted to perform for the flock, to buy the flashy artifact or demand the hollow title, simply remember this specific moment. Remember the cold, illuminated face of the machine, the steady drop of the silver coins, and the profound, unmatched luxury of remaining completely unknown. There is no grand applause, no dramatic music swelling in the background, just the steady, reassuring heartbeat of a life that belongs entirely and exclusively to you. You have successfully transcended the artificial food chain, evolving beyond the need for hollow recognition, empty titles, and the fleeting admiration of a distracted, anxious herd. The network of 42 machines stands as a silent monument to your strategic brilliance, a testament to the fact that the quietest paths often lead to the greatest freedom. As you sit down and gently wake your computer screen, you smile softly to yourself, knowing that your nocturnal worker bee will soon begin the nightly harvest. The ecosystem is perfectly balanced. The camouflage is utterly flawless, and your quiet equity will continue to compound in total silence until the end of time.